Susan Audino, Audino and Associates, owner, principal. In my opinion, we have three major hurdles. One is beginning with the sample itself. So sampling, if we're catching a coarse sample that is not representative or not a good sample, then that's going to challenge the analytical result. The second big challenge that we're having is a lack of consensus or official test methods. So this prevents laboratory results from being questioned or being refereed by independent laboratories. Very often we're asked the question, if I have three samples, give them to three labs and get three different results. How do I know which one is right and which report is wrong? And at the end of the day, all three could be right and all three could be wrong. It depends. And so consensus methods would certainly clarify some of this and provide better direction. The third issue facing analytical chemists in this industry is regulatory levels on some analytes or some compounds, particularly with respect to pesticides at the moment, where the levels that are being requested and required by various states are so low that they really don't provide any practical value. It is more than appropriate to evaluate pesticide residues and other quantities of analytes in the samples. However, the regulatory levels need to make sense to us. Having a level that just determines whether or not something is present pervasively in the environment does not necessarily help us to determine whether or not a sample or a product has been intentionally modified or used or has used prohibitive substances. In my opinion, I think the resources are out there. There are many organizations, there are many groups that are attempting to identify and establish sets of standards or standard practices in light of federal overview and oversight. And my experience with many of these organizations is that they're attempting to reinvent the wheel. So well-intentioned, I think that there are plenty of resources currently out there, particularly with respect to laboratory quality testing and with respect to process development. We've had these processes in place for other commodities, and sometimes I think they're being overlooked by the well-intentioned yet overzealous groups that want to come out and develop their own sets of standards. The experience of analysts and technicians in the laboratory. We have some phenomenal instruments that are available to the laboratory. If we do not have very well skilled and experienced chemists and biologists and technicians operating those systems, then we're not going to be optimizing the equipment and the instrument that we have available to us. So sample prep is probably, after the sampling itself, is the most critical process. If we're not processing that sample properly, then we're not going to generate a test result with quality results. The last factor I would add to that is method validation. Very often we're running into methods that are developed by the laboratory or borrowed from somebody else that have not been appropriately validated. And validated is more than just running the same sample through the instrument multiple times. It involves the determination of many parameters, and this process could take days or weeks or months and perhaps even years. So sample preparation, instrument appropriateness and validation, as well as method validation. These are the three critical areas that are driven by the expertise of the chemists and the technicians in the laboratory that will, in the end, generate effective and appropriate test results.